I'm going to talk to you a little bit today about the assignment. We can figure out maybe how to approach some parts of it, and stop me, of course, if there's any questions. But what I want to do a little bit of brainstorming as well. So probably the easiest way to do that is if you can just shout out, turn on your mic. You can also leave comments in the chat as well. So when we get to that point, I'll let you know. So let's just have a quick look at what we investigated and went through the last day. So we looked at this. Now you'll be able to catch up on the lesson with the slides and with the transcript, but I'll go through it pretty quickly now for the next 5 minutes or so. What we had been talking about in lesson 4 was feature prioritization and how to pick the best features and what was the best way we could approach it, because sometimes it's very difficult to know how to proceed. So this was in lesson 4. In lesson 4, we looked at a few different ways of scoring things and prioritizing things. Then the last day in lesson 5, we selected one of these and we put it into a table. And then we actually built out a spreadsheet. And this was the example of the spreadsheet. Sorry, do I have it open in the background? So this was the spreadsheet we were looking at. And we were using, let me just close down these so we can just all focus. So these are the features that we came up with. This is an example. And this is using the example of the fitness app that we had referenced in previous lessons. So these are the features, and the description then explains what each feature does. And then with the team, or in some communal way, you rank each of the features, and you rank them in terms of desirability, feasibility, and viability. And remember, we explained all these here, but in a simple sense, desirability is, do people want it? So let's just copy this into the spreadsheet so we can look at it at the same time. So desirability, do we think people want it? Feasibility, do we think we can build it? Viability, will it be profitable? Can the business do this as a realistic thing? So then what you do is you sum those scores across. So you add them up going across. Let me just close down these so we're not getting distracted. So these scores go across into here. Does everyone understand that? So these scores are composed of the 3 scores that we have assigned. These are made up scores. So remember, this is not real. This is what we've come up with, and this is what you'll need to do in your assignment. Use a system like this where you assign scores and then they map up. Now, in terms of these scores, we can see that these two have 24. See this? These two have 21. These are 20. This is the lowest. So in terms of building our interface or our app, like this is probably a good place to start. So when you're building out your table, you can use this spreadsheet to help you. When you're building out your table, there are other things to consider as well. What we do is we rank the features in terms of function. So we've decided that this is core functionality, these two. To log and save each workout and to summarize the activity and the goal completion. These are going to be used daily by the user, and this one is low complexity and this one is medium complexity. So this one is a little bit trickier for us to do. Really, the only one on this list to avoid is down here. It's high complexity, weekly use. It's not a daily sort of use. these ones. And what we do is we work out using this scoring matrix. It's not only these scores, it gives us a path to work through stuff. We start with the features that score high in DVF, and then they're frequently used and they have a low to medium complexity. That gives us a good starting point, and it allows us to explain our design choices to people, and in particular to the person marking your assignment. So then what we would have is phases in our build. Phase one, where we do these three features. So just let's pull back and look at those for a sec. So phase one, basic workout tracker, workout reminders, and the progress dashboard. But we would tackle these two first, and this one maybe later, because these are low complexity. So we would start with those and then maybe do the medium complexity. The next phase then is the badge rewards and the friends list. You can see them on the list, and you'll see that they score lower. Extended features, these are things to do in time when we have the other work done. So that's how this scoring table works. You rank them first. So follow the example, populate it with, remember, you're going to have 4 instances, and we looked at them. So these are the 4 scenarios that you have to. So this first one is a booking portal for a vet place, vexing vets, right? And it's a system to book common and recurring appointments as well as purchasing goods. So it's a website, and the user comes in and clicks through a few different screens on it. Fabricated flights. This one is slightly different from the other one because this is not a website. All the others, I think, are websites, but this one isn't. This is it's a system to place orders for goods and services on board a flight using a screen in the headrest. So again, similar, and it won't be totally different from the others, but for that design, there might be certain considerations because would a user be using a mouse on this? So these others are websites. So what would you use for this? How would you navigate this as a user? The system on the headrest. So this one here, what does it need to be? The second one. And I'll just pop it into chat so you can all see it. So would you use a mouse for that?
Touch screen, I guess.
Touch screen, exactly. So when it's a touch screen, do we want the buttons to be small or do we want them to be nice and large?
I would say
Nice and
large.
Exactly. And you can imagine sitting on a flight and the flight's probably bumpy and you have the touch screen here in front of you and you're pressing the buttons and you would factor that in as part of the design and you would mention that and you would say that this design is designed to be used by passengers on the move. It's a touch screen design and you're letting the person marking it know that you've thought about this. The other 3 scenarios are slightly different. These are more traditional websites. So how would the user, and remember, we're putting ourselves in the user's position. How would the user be accessing these websites? So where would the user be? So numbers 1, 3, and 4. So these are websites.
They would be at home.
At home, so you might have 2 sort of use cases. Traditional at home on a computer, on a desktop, or on a phone. And you could talk about both designs. You could actually say that your design is responsive. Do you know what responsive design is?
It gives feedback when you interact with it.
What it does, the design actually resizes to the device that you are on. So can you see this? So here's Apple. Or sorry, we'll go to Their competitor will go to Microsoft. So now, if I zoom back, you can see this is the sort of layout of the design. And we'll look at this more in a sec. So if I go down here, see these grids? Now watch what happens when my browser changes. Right now I'm in desktop, but when my browser starts to shrink, what's going to happen? See the way that it's jumped? So it's moved now from desktop mode to tablet mode because the grid, see, it's gone from 4 into 2. So you could talk about that in your assignment. You could say that my design is responsive and it accommodates desktop users and mobile users. And this will keep shrinking and shrinking and shrinking till, see the way it disappears eventually. So see the blocks as we go into full mobile mode. And where are the blocks gone? Here are the blocks. They've gone from 2. See it jumped again. And you can see this grid reorganizing. Sometimes websites serve different versions of the site based on the design that the device that you're on. So you can have a mobile version which is trimmed in, or you have a desktop version which is wider, or a design can be responsive as well, and that it moves around based on the user's device. So you could factor this in, but fundamentally, these are scenarios 1, 3, and 4 are websites. And the 3 of them are the same. If we look at the first one, so a system to book common and recurring appointments, as well as purchasing goods. So let's just highlight that in the text so we can all see it. There's one, and we'll skip this for now because we've already looked at it. And number 3 then, a system to place bookings for parties, to attend a venue, as well as ordering additional paintballs for the visits. So again, this is a booking system with an additional sort of purchase element. The last one then, a system to place bookings for parties, to attend the venue, or to participate in track day. And it has a slightly different thing if you look at the bottom, because it has age restrictions and height restrictions. And sometimes you see that. You go to a website and it's like, can you confirm you are this age? And it asks you to put in your date of birth or that. But fundamentally, these are the same, 1, 3, and 4. Can you see that? 1, 3. Will we create a website or just make a wireframe? Both. You have to do both. And we'll look at that now. You do an initial design, but then it needs to be just a little bit more polished. And I'll go through this design brief with you now, end to end. There's 2 parts to it. They're talking about wireframing and a medium fidelity wireframe, which is just like the kind of design sketch. But they also want a high fidelity prototype, that's clickable and that has navigation in it, so that you actually do both. So your design will emerge. So let me just go back to the slides. You understand the feature prioritization. Everyone gets this? Because that's a really important part of the assignment. Make up the scores and have it ranked daily, low complexity, that kind of stuff. And copy what I've done here. Now, the features that you make up are going to have to be based on one of these scenarios, 1, 2, 3, or 4. The scenario or the features that I've made up are based on the fitness app. So you'll have to think. The easiest way to do it is to go in and look online and look at an actual booking system in a pet store or in a paintballing place, somewhere that young people can go. And let me see, is there anything else I want to cover from the last envisionment? So these are your wireframes or your very low fidelity prototypes. So you can, I believe, do them on paper if you want, but you're probably, if you can do them digitally, that will probably look a little bit better. Does anyone really want to draw them by hand? Or would you prefer to use software to try and build them? So
Definitely software.
I would pick software as well. I think I would spend more time scribbling and rubbing things out. You can use very basic, like we looked at the last day, very basic block shapes. For prototyping, these sort of wire, like you're talking this type of level of detail, really basic blocks. Just shape here, shape there, just give your shapes names. So this is this type of level that prototyping needs. Really simple stuff. The clickable prototype or the more complete design needs a little bit more detail than this. It should be branded a little bit and it should look reasonably professional. I'll show you how to do that in a sec. So these are your more basic wireframes. What this does is it helps you figure out maybe where the user needs to go, the sequence of activities. Part of what you're being asked for in your assignment is a navigation map. So let's look at a simple version of really your almost something like this would be enough or something like that. Can you see the way there's just a few elements? So you don't need, like that's a navigation map. Homepage, products, booking, support, contact, that kind of stuff. See if there's simple site. We get one with booking in it. This one is for a travel site, book a trip, details, reservations, payments, confirmation. So that might have a little bit too much detail in it, but you're looking generally for a very simple version of this. Would you feel confident building something like this in the software? So what do I start with? What's going to be right up the top here? So what's the first page the users go to?
The home page.
Let me just change the color. And then off the top, so how would we organize the blocks? Something like this, wouldn't we? Okay, and we can so say our top level navigation has 4 pages. We'd organize them something like this, wouldn't we? And then one of these might be a booking page, and then under that we would have sub pages that the person would go through. And then we join them all up with lines and with arrows. So remember, we're trying to do a simple kind of version of this. Go in and look for a simple sitemap, and it'll give you a visual representation of what it is. And you can make it look nice. You can use a couple of different colors and go in and label it properly. So that would be one of the requirements of the assignment met. The UX or the high fidelity, the clickable prototypes are a little bit different in that you're going to need to spend more time. There are online tools that you can use, and we looked at some of those. I think some of them might be a little bit advanced for you. So these are more for professionals. I've used this one. It's like a virtual whiteboard. It's quite good. But again, might be overkill for you guys. Personally, I think you should probably use PowerPoint or Google Slides or something like that. It's going to be very similar software to the software that I'm using here. Eventually, you will end up with something like this. And this is just a browser window. Can you see this image in the background? And I can go in and I can find one of those. If you're looking for something on, so if I go browser window, and if I go PNG, it lets it know that I want something with a transparent background. So if I go in now, sorry, I'm going to my advanced search, and then I'll set where's my size? And I want my size to be large because I want it to be nice. And then really you grab one of these and you use that across multiple slides. Let's see, will that look any good? Copy image, and then I'm going to pop that in on a new blank slide. Sometimes you get these weird backgrounds. Now I can trim this as well, so I can pull in the sides on that as well. And then I would use that window across all my slides just to give it a little bit of pizzazz. And doing stuff like this is going to help distinguish where the wireframe or the low fidelity prototype is pretty rough and ready. This one should have a little bit more design to it. It also needs to be clickable. So what they mean by that is you have to be able to navigate. So the person marking it needs to be able to use the menus, right? Now, you can put in links. So in PowerPoint and in Google Slides and these type of software, you can link to web pages outside, but you can also link to slides inside. So I've included a link here and I've marked it. So when I go here, it's going to take me to the products slide. So if I click and see the way it's products, and I've even amended the URL so that it's showing products, and do this in your design. How I create a link is I select the text and then I go to add link and then I go to slide and it'll give me a list of the slides. And then I pick the slide I want to go to. And what the person who is marking your thing should be able to do is to move around it using the menus. But really all they're doing is moving from slide to slide. And if you need extra support, the easiest thing to do is if you get stuck, go in and add link to slide PowerPoint, add link to slide Google Sheets, that type of stuff. I've put in, I think, 2 links here. The first one is products. Now I've deliberately marked the link so that you guys can see it, but you can also do that. You could have a little arrow and you could have a little label that says click here to go to products. So when I click on the top nav, it's going to take me to products. Now, when I'm in the products page, I can also click on the home icon or the business and it'll take me back as well. So now I'm back to the start again. I'm back. So I'm really only moving between these 3 slides here. You'll notice there's a couple of different versions as well. This is a dark mode and this is light mode. And you can do all this. You can show them some variation in your design, come up with some ideas. You can show, you don't necessarily need to use just a browser window like this. You could also have a little icon of a phone, but it's going to be more difficult for you to fit everything you need into the phone screen. So I think something like this might be a better kind of starting point. And if you have time, then add a phone icon. Any questions on any of this before we jump on?
Oh, so
All good? You feel confident? Feeling good? Yeah. Let me just grab this and pop that in there. We'll have another quick look at the assignment. Let's look at it piece by piece. What do we need to do? We need to create prioritized lists, and we need to use one of these, the impact effort matrix, the Moscow analysis, or the FDV scorecards. We've done that. So that's the spreadsheet. Using the list, you should look to organize it. This is the spreadsheet. So that's where you pick your scenario, come up with your features, put them in some sort of sensible order. So they're all fine. Now, from what you produce in parts A and B here, these are all the sort of features. Create a medium fidelity wireframe. You should show the main interface elements, the architecture of the content, how it's organized on the page, how the nav works. You should have labels for color, typefaces, videos, all that. So it's important to label. We had a good example of labeling here. See the way this labels the features? So that's what they're looking for there. Can you see that? You have your design, have it in the middle of the page, and have your labels coming in from the side. Talk a little bit about the colors as well. The color theory. Why did you pick these choices? We spent a lot of time going through this. So go back through the slides and try and mention as many things as you can. Because really for everything that you mention, you're going to pick up some marks. So part C, this part, is medium fidelity wireframe. The second part then is the type, and it needs to be clickable and include information on colors, again, logos, headings, and content. So you're actually building two things. One is the initial design sketch, and then the other one is the more complete option. Think of the different elements in a web page. This sort of gives you an idea. You have the top header. So if we go in, let's look at an example. Let's go back to Microsoft. Can you see the top header? So what's in the top header? Call out to me. Where's the top header? It's up here, right up the top. So it has the navigation menu, and they've crammed in a bunch of different features, all this sort of stuff. Under that, they have a sort of an offer bar. It's like deals, shop here for deals. What's this part called? So this part where the photo is. Let's go back and see if you can read in the diagram. What would you call that? Content area would be a little bit lower down. I would call that the banner. It's part of the header. Yeah, and you can see it's dynamic. See the way it's a slideshow and we can move through it. It's just got a couple of things flicking across. So you could do that as well. So what I'm saying is go to a website that you like the look of and borrow from the layout and say, oh, they have this, I'm going to include this. They have this, I'm going to include this. And build out a homepage, because these websites have all different sort of areas in them. Let's look at the structure of another website. If we go to something like, explain this structure to me. So what is this? Go and type it in the chat, or so what's that? The logo, exactly. So what's going to happen if I go to another page and I click the logo? Where is it going to bring me back?
The home
Oh,
page.
these are these sort of rules that we all know. You would write that company logo that takes user back to homepage, contact details, different here. What's that? We all know it because of the icon. So remember, we're explaining meaning through picture. What is this area with the that's moving? What's it called? The banner. It's animated or it's dynamic. So it can be flat. Maybe it doesn't need to move. This is your sort of your main nav. Under these, we're going to have the sort of menus that drop down. So this is our sitemap. So let's go to book. We can do that two ways. Where are the two places I can click to book?
Under the banner, you can book an appointment.
Yeah.
And in the navigation, you can book now.
Okay. So to do that, you guys could go in and grab a website like this and just build out the blocks, and you can even borrow from the color scheme. You know, if you come across a website that you really like the look of, use it as inspiration. You don't need to come up with every part of this yourself. Rely on the resources you have available to you. Let's go in and look at the booking process. I'm in the booking process now, and I can see that up here because it says book an appointment. So you would change your URL. So you show the home page first, book an appointment. Then you have another slide. You move to the booking page. The URL says book. What's the first thing we need to do in the booking process? So this
Choose location.
chain, yeah, location, they have 4 locations. Let's go to the first one. Now, these are the steps that they've defined. 1, 2, 3, 4. You could borrow from this again. You can build this out using the blocks. I am a new client. I have 1 dog. My appointment type, I want to get the dog vaccinated. I don't mind which vet I see. Next. Now it's showing me dates. What's it going to show me after this? So I'm looking at date. So after I select a date, what will it show me?
Time.
So use an existing booking system like this to help you figure out the steps. It wouldn't make sense to pick a time and then a date, would it? Because we don't know. And now what it's doing is showing me availability. You could also have a couple of different vets. Like this company seems to have a ton of different vets. So let's see when Jenny's available. No time slots today. They seem to be busy. Let's see which of these vets is available. No, they're all busy. Claire has got 1 in the afternoon. So all these other vets were busy. If I don't have a preference as to who to see, it gives me a lot more options. I can see there's no morning appointments or whatever. And you show time slots like this, and you use a kind of a couple of blocks and a simple sort of calendar system. So let's pick 3 o'clock. Now it takes me to another screen where I enter my details, all that kind of stuff. So what will I see next? When I fill out all my details, where will it take me?
Payment.
Possibly payment. So the company, you would have to decide if you look for a deposit or the person pays on the day. If you don't take payment, you would get a confirmation message. And what would happen with that confirmation message? It would usually be sent to you, wouldn't it? In the form of an email. Go in whatever scenario you pick, right, out of these 4, go in online, go through a booking process that exists. You can go to one of the big companies and look at how all this works. Select destination, look at dates, look at times, enter details. Go in and have a look at a booking process is a very common use for a website. So these are the type of areas you would cover on the page. This is a very rough sort of prototype or that we looked at the last day. Booking form, you want to pop in name, number, pet name, pet type. These are the sort of you could define the pet type in a drop down. You could have cat, dog, bird, whatever the different pets are. You could have validation in there as well for the information. That would be the name would be text only, the number would be the telephone number. I'll call that tel. So would be numbers only. And you sometimes see that on websites or on forums where it only allows you to type in a particular data type. You all know what drop-down menus are, don't you? What does the green, actually that green, so this would be incorrect, right? So let's have a quick look at this because it actually makes no sense. Now, use of color, what is it telling the user? So that use of color.
It's not available.
Stop, red stop, green go. Why is it not available?
The working hours start after.
So use some color in your design. What's going to happen now when I change this to that on the interface? See the way we're communicating progress to the user through the use of color? Talk about that. Have a couple of different kind of buttons and stuff in your design, and then you label them and you explain those choices. This would be what you call data validation. So it only accepts numbers. So what you're doing is through the system, you're helping the user progress through the booking process. You're guiding them through by means of technology and by means of color. So that would be quite a rough and ready sort of prototype where you're just figuring out, what do I need? What information do I need? How am I going to communicate? I'm pulling my design together. I'm picking a logo for my business because that logo will repeat. So some of these elements will repeat throughout your design. If it got a little bit more advanced, we could have something like this. It's a little bit more stylized, but now this time we've included a sort of a calendar that the user can swipe through, or that the user can click through. They select the date along the top. When they select the time, it's highlighted, and then this goes green, and it knows, because this is telling them you're doing the right thing, no problems. So again, name, phone, pet name, all these type of things. Can you see the way this design just follows on from the previous one? Let's look at a really strong design. Let's go through the screens. Again, using the pet. This is for an app. This would be the sort of the first screen, and I'm going to zoom in a little bit so we all can see actually. This is the loading screen for the app. And then the person either is a personal login, or are they a foster for a pet, a dog or a cat. You might need to set up a profile. Here's a confirmation screen. This is the screen that you set up your pet's profile in. It has a booking screen. Say we focus on, this is an invoice screen. Say we focus on appointments. So when the user, now to show progression, I can see this little hand? That's just an image I've grabbed. So now what I'm doing is I'm showing how the user would interact with the design, and I would define the steps. First, the user clicks appointments. Then they are taken to a screen where all the pets that they have previously entered exist. They click on select. Next, after the pet is selected, they're taken to a second screen where they select the day and the evening slots. Then they are asked for a message. They confirm, and then finally they confirm the appointment and they get a confirmation screen. This would be quite a professional looking design. You see that? Now, you wouldn't need to go into this level of detail, but that just shows you the steps from A to B that you might need to cover. We all get that? So that now, to do that in terms of design is quite a lot. And I wouldn't put it all in one screen like that. It's too much to fit in using the software you have. So have separate slides. Each of these would be on a different slide because you need it to be clickable. After I would click over here, it takes me to here. So the slide needs to move to the next slide. You could do a mock-up to show a couple of variations of your design on a phone in this sort of orientation. But I think what you should do is have something like this that's easier for you to work with in your software, and go in and get some inspiration online. So look, just a couple of minutes left. I want to jump on to typography. So do you understand what typography means? It's the arrangement of text. It's the selection of text that you make to make sure that what the user is screening aligns with the product's design, with the brand's purpose, that sort of stuff. There is a bunch of reasons why typography is important. It's very easy to spot bad typography. Why do we use it? Why do we communicate with typography? Number one, it guides the user's eye. It acts as a navigation tool, and it helps users locate the most important content. It supports the user decisions. It speeds up how the user processes content. It improves readability. So really important, the size of the text, the spacing of the text. It supports access and accessibility. And what we can talking about there is people maybe with reduced eyesight. You could have people with color blindness. those type of things. It helps you build a consistent tone in terms of your brand. So look at the slide here. Now, see the way I've made these parts bold. You see that? But so for each point, so it makes it much easier for you to see. Did you notice did you read this like that? So did you work through it like that? You will read this first, and then you will read this line next, and then you might
Yeah.
come back to that. Why is that? I think we all did. So why did we? It's because we're being guided. So what order did you? So you went 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. What's this? What's this? Something like that? Because the typography is actually guiding us on the page. So typography is powerful for directing the user. Like we're used to reading from top to bottom, left to right, top to bottom, left to right. And that's in this English language in particular. So the users that are coming to your website, you know how they're going to read the text and view the website already. So now what you just need to do is using the typography, guide them. Different elements in typography, different fonts, different typefaces, different spacings, different font weights, different styles, different hierarchies as well, where bold or large text can focus on key content. On this slide, where is the bold text? Oh, so what text is really obvious on this particular slide? So what's the most obvious? What about this? Not just the pictures, so the whole slide. So maybe the one with the color though does stand out. That's a very good point. A title and bold text, that's in that. And then out of the pictures, it's maybe the colors that pop. So you use that. What's really important and what Apple are just geniuses at using is white space. Now, let me just show you this slide. See the way you can read this text pretty well. Everyone can see that. Let's change the spacing. Now, read the same text. Totally different. So give your text room to breathe. So even that is hard to read because it doesn't have spacing. So let's put the spacing back in. Better? So that's what you're trying to do. So when you're building your design, don't have your text on top of each other. Give it room to breathe. Let's go to just the Apple are always the number ones for this. Look at the amount of white space on the site. Look at the gaps. What do the gaps? What does the space give? A clarity or a certain distinction to it. Look at how much in these images. Look, loads. Super simple. Look, 1, 2, just blocks, and they're all the same. And look, they've all got the same color scheme. It's not till we get further down, and look at how much stuff they're trying to fit in. But it's all hidden until you need it. So now look what we have. But again, look at the white space. Look at how much space is in here. What does the space give us? Yeah, it's exactly not too much information crammed in. So what are these called up the top? These pictures. But what are those little pictures called? Anyone know? Icons, exactly, icons. So they're pictures that give a sort of sense of meaning. So zoom in and we see them. So I can, even if I can't read English, I can probably figure out, what each one of these is just from the pictures. So you're helping the user all the time. Look at the white space. You've got this nice menu. I just want to see desktops. So it's very well thought out in terms of the design. but it's giving enough room to let the design breathe. Super important. So very important in design and typography. So when you're doing your design, give it room to breathe, or else it's too much. The user just won't understand it. The last point then I want to make before we finish is keep the fonts, pick one or two fonts, a few, keep it consistent, have hierarchies, heading, subheading, body text, that sort of stuff. Support accessibility. You can match your typography to the brand. So this is Instagram. They've got a handwritten font because it's like a kind of a playful sort of brand. And focus on clarity over decoration. Keep it simple. Let the person who's marking your assignment be able to see what you're thinking. A big part for you guys as well is have your designs centered in the middle of the page, because you want to be able to label everything. Remember, you're going to be having labels coming in from the sides, like in this example. So have your design in the center, and then have your labels at the side, and label and explain all the design elements. So any questions? We covered a lot today. Start thinking about which one of these you're going to pick. Go in, start looking at some vets, start looking at some booking systems, start looking at some places to book parties. Go in and start thinking, what steps is the user going to need to complete? How does the system need to support them? And get your software up and running, get your PowerPoint, your Google Slides, and build out a couple of things with blocks. There's quite a lot in this assignment. So what I would say is start thinking about it now and start compiling sources for inspiration. I will chat to you soon, and I'll upload the slides to the LMS and yeah, take care.
Thank you.
Bye-bye.